have the rest of the fabulous D127 team. So let's get started. Okay, call to order and roll call. We have everybody. Can everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everybody. So at this time, I'd like to, hi, Amy. I'd like to open the meeting for public participation. Michael, do we have any? Doesn't look like it, but nope. Okay. Review the minutes from last meeting. Anybody say? Excuse me. Anybody say anything? Hal or Russ?
It looked okay to me.
Russ?
Oh, looks good.
Okay. Continuing business. Financial review. So the LED lighting conversion review. So is Abe actually here?
Yeah,
He's here.
There you are.
Yeah.
You're hiding in the corner there.
Thank you very much, Douglas. So we wanted to begin with just a preliminary foundational conversation as it relates to our current status on LEDs and the lighting. We've done actually quite a bit of work so far. So just wanted to, provide some background and an update to the committee as far as what we've done so far. The benefits are pretty apparent. Just a quick summary. As it relates to some of the benefits, the energy savings are obvious. Enhanced lighting controls and flexibility, reduced maintenance cost. The frequency of a maintenance person replacing a fluorescent bulb is far greater than an LED bulb, as an example. And of course, there's numerous studies correlating the improvement of student concentration and performance, all sorts of studies related to some of the benefits for LED. So at North, we started the conversion approximately 2 years ago. The original fixtures are still relatively in good shape. It's a relatively new building. So we've gone with a retrofit option over the past couple of years. We've simply removed the ballast and replaced the bulbs. We're able to realize a $4 to $5 rebate on a per bulb basis. It results in a net cost to us of under $1. It's about 85 cents currently, making it cheaper than the cost of a replacement fluorescent bulb as it relates to the material costs. We have quite a bit left to replace. We have essentially converted all of the hallways throughout North, and the next phase was to address the classrooms. So the strategy is to essentially retrofit these fixtures with our WFF staff on an ongoing basis. Background for Central. We did complete the conversion of approximately 1/3 of the school this past summer with the Univent project. It happened concurrently. And students will be able to see the difference of fluorescent to LED for the first time on Tuesday to realize some of the benefits. Those are brand new. And so very happy that 1/3 of the Central High School has been completed. Due to the age of the fixtures, the entire fluorescent fixture is being replaced on an ongoing basis. They're currently T8s. The cost of the fixture itself is $60 per unit. We competitively get pricing on these units. We currently have 150 units ready to be installed. And again, we're utilizing our WFF maintenance staff to proceed with this conversion over time. Dan and I have been discussing various options on how to accelerate the process, such as assigning a maintenance staff to second shift, one in each school, to help accelerate the completion of the buildings in about a year and a half. And so that was just a quick background, a foundational conversation for the committee on LEDs as far as where we're at currently as a status update. Any questions related to this topic?
I'd just like to point out that I think I said before about the migraine headaches. There's lots of studies out there that says it greatly reduces migraine headaches or eliminates them. So I think that was kind of the concentration part of it too. So thank you guys for jumping on that. Does anybody else have any questions?
I do not, no.
I got here a little bit late, so I'm sorry about that, guys. Some server problems. Did you talk about the savings that are involved in going with this technology?
We did.
You did? That conversation has been
Yeah.
had. And let me see. Have you looked at other ways of, I'll bring this up at the next meeting that we have. Okay, good enough for now. Thank you.
Have any other questions, Kathleen? Go ahead. I mean, Ed, can we ask them real quick? I'm sure. I think it's $1. Go ahead, Nate.
Well, one of the things that I'd like to talk about, and this is probably not the best, this is not the best place to do it, is how to work towards being a greener school and modeling that for our young people. So we can hold off on that conversation because we did talk about a little. I did mention last year that I wanted to have that conversation, and I'd like to think about it as far as our facilities are concerned. And so maybe having a conversation with Mikkel about when would be a good time to tee that up based on all the things that are going on right now. But that is something that's on my radar. I'm sure it's on others because from what I'm gathering, don't have all the information. Maybe Douglas, you do have more, but there's a lot of savings involved in going green these days, right?
That's a topic close to my heart. You know, as an engineer, as someone who's been LEED certified, I've opened a LEED certified building. There's definitely great benefits and to pay it forward educationally for our students. Great opportunity for that here.
Okay, great. Well, we will maybe set up a time to have a more robust conversation on that out at the boards when everyone's available.
Abe, is there any grants that we can apply for to help us get this completed in a faster way through the state or federal government?
There's always grants that are out there and that we're constantly looking at. The majority of the grants we've seen are obviously related to, the ESSER grants related to COVID. During normal years, we've always seen a healthy flow of grants to provide an offset of the costs for such things such as this, such as LED. Absolutely. And we've been engaged in quite a bit as well. Just smart outlets, smart sensors on our vending machines, things like that. We've done quite a bit.
But it sounds like from Kathleen, I think a lot of the other board members can pipe in. It sounds like you saying a year and a half, we should be completely switched over to LED light bulbs and fixtures. Is that what you're saying?
That's an early conversation I've had with Dan. We still need to fine tune some of our estimates on the remaining number of fixtures and the rate. We think we can do a room a night per building. And so we've done an extrapolation of what that would look like. And we think a year and a half could be ideal. Notwithstanding, pulling this individual off for other things that do come up. I think that's the variable in all of this.
Well, you got my blessing.
Thank you. Any other questions related to this?
Oh, great. Good discussion. Thank you, everybody. Kathleen. Okay, COVID-19 update.
Well, I think at P Cubed, they're going to have, Tracy and Danielle are going to have a presentation more about COVID. I guess I'll touch on the vaccine piece a little bit. Well, let me back up. This week, our staff is back in preparation for hybrid next week. Just a tremendous amount of work that our staff has done getting ready and, preparing their workspace and teaching materials, and a tremendous amount of work that this team has done, to say the least. So it's been great to see staff. Honestly, it's been great to see people back in the building. I was saying today, like people we have hired in July, today was the first time I actually saw them. Like, oh, you're a lot taller than I thought. But it's been great. It's been really good. So working on that, continuing to work on that. And Tuesdays is the day. As far as the vaccine thing goes, I sent you a copy of the message I sent to the staff. Nothing really new, except for logistics are starting to roll. The vaccine site will be at Round Lake. There's going to be, so that's going to be a closed vaccination pod for educators in Lake County. There's going to be another closed site in at Stevenson. That'll be opening probably a week later than the Round Lake one does. They're just trying to spread it out throughout the county. And so right now working on who's administering the vaccine, all the logistics, you know, drive up and all that kind of stuff. So working on that. Our staff, we've been encouraging them to go in and register for the All-Vax system just to get in there. And what we are told is once they're in there and tagged as Group 1B, which that's what the educators are, starting next week, we should start getting up follow-up emails with a little bit more detailed information that's going to help us do some logistics. So it's rolling quick, which is great. So actually, as a matter of fact, Group 1B are educators. Excuse me, Group 1A, of course, are healthcare workers, and that does include our speech pathologists, that includes our social workers, that includes occupational therapy, physical therapy, school psychs. So they were able to get in on Group 1A, and I believe some of them are starting to get vaccinated now. So that's really fantastic news. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Sorry.
And Miko, can I have a question? How about the support staff and the like the janitorial staff and all those folks?
Everybody.
Everybody. They're in 1A?
Yep. No, they'll be 1B.
1B,
as
sorry.
like educators in the education institution.
Good.
Yep. Very important.
And bus drivers too, and all those.
Yeah.
I know that's not our deal,
but they're in contact with our kids. So
right.
yeah. Really important for that. Food service, all of that. Yep. Maintenance, whole deal.
I hate to butt in, but I sat in an hour and a half Lake County Health Department meeting last night, one of their meetings about it. And yeah, they did mention in February, they also said if they go to vaccinate the teachers and when they're there, if there's any, they're not going to waste any dosage. So they're going to do the teachers. And if there's anybody, they have extra, they're not going to waste it.
Right.
If anybody else is there, they will inoculate them too. That was interesting. But they did say sometime in February, they plan on doing that. Once they get more dosages, they're going to go quicker. They are asking for volunteers that are nurses or able to vaccinate. They're looking for them to go on the health department website and sign up as a volunteer. They're looking for schools and for other places. So when they do mass vaccinations, they're looking for schools and anybody that can help. They're going to be shorthanded. And that includes more than just the people that can do the vaccinations, but people to help do the traffic control. So it's something that we might get presented to us as a school district.
Yeah. They were saying that for every 10 people vaccinating, they need 40 support.
Yeah.
So everything you just mentioned, kind of traffic control, crowd control, all of that stuff, in addition to the medical professionals who are doing vaccinations.
They're starting seniors. I know my mom this weekend.
Yep.
I know they're starting to vaccinate the seniors at the long-term, and then they plan on going to then the next step, which is the teachers and essential workers. And then after that, which they said to me would be spring or early summer, vaccinating the 16 older that have health issues that they need to be vaccinated.
Yeah, I think they're doing a nice job. You know, it's a really, really complex process just because the vaccine is so fragile. So much more to come, coming quick. We'll keep you apprised of what's going on.
Michael, a quick question. I think we talked about this a little bit. Do we know how many teachers either can't or are not expected to take the vaccine?
We don't really know now, but as I mentioned, the email that's coming out next week with further information, that'll have, what educational institution are you affiliated with? Grays Lake 127. And they're going to give us that data just to let us know how many of our staff members have registered for it.
Okay.
So we should get some pretty quick information about that.
I'd like to keep updated on that one.
Yeah. For sure. That's really all I have for COVID right now. As I mentioned, Tracy and Danielle are going to have a much richer discussion or a longer discussion, kind of some of the details we've been working on. And
okay.
I won't steal.
So we're on track to open up hybrid on Tuesday the 19th.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mikkel.
Mhm.
On the 6A, the COVID absence agreement, MOU. Maybe you want to take that?
Thank you, Douglas. So FFCRA expired December 31st, 2020. The Department of Labor has provided guidance for 2021, which includes an option for employers to extend such a benefit. We have framed an MOU to provide this for up to 10 days. This is designed for an employee who's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or is suffering from COVID-like symptoms and is unable to work. This flexibility provides reassurance to staff in the hybrid model. We foresee this potential benefit as being used sparingly. And Danielle, would you like to add anything to that? I know you've done quite a bit of background on this as well.
Thanks. No, I would just concur. We kept really close track of the amount of days staff used while we were remote. As you recall, we had FFCRA, which is the Family First Coronavirus Response Act that supported staff members in a two-pronged approach from illness and childcare. And so we in HR tracked the number of days that staff were so ill from COVID that they could not work remote. And we had 3 staff for a total of 10 days. So not many people at all access that benefit. So as Abe said, we don't anticipate this being used very often. And Tracy and I will talk a little bit more about that in P-Cubed, about kind of the person-centered and student-centered really approach to absences that we're taking to avoid the use of these days. So I would just kind of double click on that for a bit. But other than that, you summed it up beautifully.
I just want to add that I'm not sure you guys everybody read it, but it's only for the 2021 school year, and just everybody think everybody knows that just limits our exposure. So if we need to extend it, we'll look at that. But so okay, any questions or comments?
I just want to say that I'm just observing this meeting that I think it's a good thing to do. Even though it's a memo of understanding, so that's a good reference point. But even if it's anticipated to only be used sparingly, it's a very good thing to have in place so people know what to do and the expectations are there. It works for both an employer and an employee, so it's good to have in place.
Well said.
Yeah, and it would be, I think it would be, it would not be good for us to anticipate these needs.
Okay, moving on, the E-rate Category 1 Internet Service Contract.
Thank you, Douglas. So the E-rate process, it's difficult, and with Dr. Jessica Ivanelli being engaged in this process for the first time, I've never been involved in such a smooth bidding process with E-rate. And so the first one is related to internet services. Jessica, would you like to take this over from here?
Sure. So our Category 1 E-rate covers anything that has to do with internet services. We've been using Comcast as our provider and have had no issues with that. And in fact, recently in September, they opened up a second filing without having to file a 470 officially to be able to expand our bandwidth. So we did take that opportunity to expand our bandwidth to 2 gigabytes at each building with the 1 gigabyte transfer in between, so that if one building goes down, the internet will transfer to the other building. We just did that in anticipation of whatever the growth might be over the next few years, and having that small window to be able to do so was wonderful. Fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at this, our contract with Comcast was up this year as well. So they only did that extension through June 30th, and then we went to bid. We did receive 3 bidding contracts. We received one from Comcast. We received one that was incomplete from a company called Citranet, and after doing a little bit more digging, found out that it was a spam company. And then we also did receive a proposal from AT&T, but AT&T was, whereas Comcast is $8,295 for our internet coverage, AT&T was just over $9,500, plus there was going to be a $3,000 charge to transfer everything over. They didn't have any viable references for us to check or anything of that nature, so our recommendation is to stick with Comcast as our internet provider, to remain with the 2 gigs at each building with the 1 gig in between.
With a reimbursement of 40% of the actual
Right. Our
cost.
E-rate reimbursement is 40% for our district based upon the number of students that we have.
Thank you, Jessica. Any questions related to this one before we move on to the firewall? I kind of want to ask permission, Douglas.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Abe. Yeah. No, I think we're good. Sorry about that.
So next, we have category 2, E-rate, which is related to our firewall equipment, installation, and configuration. Jessica, could you please summarize this one as well?
Sure. So category 2 for E-rate is any type of internal connections, any managed broadband services, any basic maintenance of those services. So what we did was just take a peek at our cycles for firewall, because if anything is important right now, it's our safety and security of all our data and our protection. And currently we are running 3060 Palo Alto firewalls, and they're at 80% of their data capacity, which just moving forward is not where we want to be in terms of being able to make sure that we have everything in place to expand if necessary. So it was time to upgrade. We've had those since 2018, so by the time we do upgrade, they will be 4 years old, which is average. So we're looking at the Palo Alto 5220 series, which is, there is no 4000, they skipped for some reason. So 5220 series, which would cover all of our needs. It would cover all the updated policies, the feature sets, the standards and laws that are coming out, in addition to the licensing that needed to be renewed. So the only bid we had for that one was from CDW. So CDW is our current Palo Alto provider. They did the project with us back in 2018, and they provide us all of that licensing as well. So it is my suggestion to continue with CDW as our existing vendor. Just as a heads up too, the licensing includes all of the threat protection, the wildfire subscription, the global protect, everything that protects our accounts and our data as well.
How much extra capacity will this give us on that, or extra coverage? I'm not sure I'm phrasing that properly.
No, you are. Yeah, that's absolutely understandable. So again, with the 30 series that we're on, 3000 series that we're on, we're already at 80% of data capacity usage with what we're using. Because even when students are home, we have everything set that it still bounces through our firewall before it comes up on our computer. Because again, we want to keep them safe and secure in their accounts wherever they are. So the estimate of putting in this 5000 series is that we'll be, by the time we're completed, we'll be at 30%. And so we will have that 70% expansion to be able to move forward, which is huge. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and how long do you expect that to last? 4 years as well, or is that?
They say between 3 and 5 is average, but because this series is far more advanced than what we actually currently have, it's going to be closer to the 5 or 6 range, which again, we'll keep it in mind, keep it reevaluating every year. Our licensing is up in 3 years, and they do that on purpose because at 3 years, they want to evaluate where we're at before we move on with further licensing.
Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or? Okay. Moving on to the annual procurement of the Chromebooks memo, please.
Yes, so this is an annual procurement for the freshman class for next year. And the way we're structured here is that the fees collected offset the costs of the Chromebooks. Jessica, can you please summarize the bid summary for this as well?
Yes, so we procure our Chromebooks from CDW, and we did all as a tech team attend the virtual CDW showcase this year, and Acer is continuing with the model that we have currently purchased for freshmen next year as well because of how well it is performing during remote learning. So we were able to even bring down our number. Usually it's 800 Chromebooks, but as registration is going and with how many spares and we have left, we've been able to knock that number down to 760 Chromebooks. It includes their licensing, their enrollment into the Google Council, and then also the, let's say, barcoding that allows us to identify the devices and to be able to scan them in and out. So the total for that came to just over $303,000. We sent the information to 3 different companies for lease proposals. The first was Jason Marquardt from American Capital. Then we sent it to John Vonder, who has been from Providence Capital, who has been our leasing company for the past 14 years. And then we also sent it to Jeff Walensky from Wintrust Capital. Jason Marquardt was not willing to do a lease proposal at the time. And so in comparing Providence Capital and Wintrust Capital, John Vonder did give us a lower interest rate for the 4-year term, and we have a really good working relationship with that leasing company. So my suggestion is to continue with John Vonder from Providence Capital for the leasing of the Chromebooks.
Okay, any questions? Comments? I actually have a couple of comments. So first of all, when we started this program way back when, I talked to Dave about this a little bit. So when we started this program way back when, these computers were meant to be kind of, I call it kind of the commuter, computer. So it wasn't meant really for the long haul. It wasn't, and I know you, Jessica, you said that the performance of these computers have been fine, but just from the sample that when the kids talk to me and the parents talk to me, I don't feel they're really meant for kind of like the 8 hours a day that we're using them now. So although this is it was a good solution at the time, and I want to finish the contract, I do want to look at possibly beefing these things up, because you never know when we have to go back. And please don't take this as I want to have this as a positive conversation, right? Because these things really weren't meant for the long haul, and that's what the kids are they're beating on them, and sometimes they're stalling, whatever. I mean, but it's sometimes depending on the class, right? So I just want to challenge the administration the next round of when we talk about this again to maybe look at some a little bit more beefier computers.
Absolutely.
Hey.
We're always looking at what's coming up next, and we're always working with our surrounding districts in terms of what they have and the issues they've been having. We found that the Acers have been overperforming some of the other areas. HPs are having batteries blow up. Lenovo's are having issues with keyboards and motherboards not being able to handle. The largest issue, which we really can't support, is the bandwidth that are at the homes is causing a lot of the lag issue. And then when we try to troubleshoot with students live, the number of tabs that they have open running live programs like Zoom and ClassKick at the same time, they're all educationally related. They're dragging on those devices, and then multiple ones in the household. So we need to start looking, yes, at how much these can hold, but also the durability sake. And what's been great is that districts have been reporting out on devices that they have that their students have, and what some of the longer term issues have been. So it's going to give us some of that data that we didn't have before. So I'd be happy to share any of that, and I continue to stay on top of that as we move forward. But I'm just so glad the HP issue with the battery explosions has been just a nightmare. They'll only last for 6 hours, they overheat, and pop goes the battery.
And thank you for that. And maybe I'll give you a call offline, because some of the issues that when I was talking to the kids, they have pretty good bandwidth because I'm kind of on top of that. I ask those questions. Some of it was with some of the math. I forgot the name of the math program that the kids use for geometry, but places like that. And that's not really a computer issue either. It's more of the server on the server side. But I'll give you a call if that's okay with you, Michael, to talk to Jessica about that. Okay, cool.
Hey, Douglas, I think maybe what we need to do is, I was going to say the same thing, the Wi-Fi and the bandwidth is what's causing that. But I think maybe we need to reach out as a district to all these kids again and have Jessica put out there, if they're having issues, they can connect with them and try to get them solved.
I would agree with that, Russ. I think we should look at it as a governance board and maybe reach out to the kids. That was my thought too, and start collecting data. We want to be making broad-based decisions. So yeah, I'm very interested in getting that feedback.
Yeah, so if there is a consistent problem with a math app, then our IT department needs to know that so they can work on it.
Yeah, I would also say, I mean, just goes without saying, the educational world has completely changed. right? And even if we get back to whatever normal is, next year, it's still going to change because, all of these tools, we're going to continue to use them. Probably not at home for 8 hours a day, right? But I think we just kind of need to look at the picture as a whole. I think that's what you guys are all saying. But from an educational standpoint, we may have different needs also. So I agree.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, Mikkel, would that be under facilities? Or how would we think about that as a governance board? I mean, maybe I can ask Lori, maybe make that something.
Yeah, it's right. It's finance and it's programs and policy. So we can figure it out. We can figure
it out. But yeah, I really would appreciate, because my concern is like Russ is saying, and Douglas, is that if the kids are having particular problems and they've got too many tabs open and they're dragging the system, and maybe there's an educational component to this too that we need to be right. So okay.
Russ, did you want to say something?
I'm not a big fan of using any of this stuff, so I kind of struggle with it. But I think a lot of it is the Wi-Fi and the connection. But I'm more old-fashioned. I struggled with this for a long time. I'm not a big fan of using any of this stuff.
Okay. Noted. Okay. I think we're done with that subject. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Douglas, I have a quick question.
I'm sorry, Kathleen.
No. I'm just trying to figure out, would this be something that we would bring out to the board later as part of goals for next year? Is this, I just want you to know I'm going to make a note of it, and I'll get back to you guys to see about how we're going to figure it out, or if you could get back to Douglas and you can get back to me. We just need to know how we're going to move this forward. But Mikkel, I'll give you a call whenever we talk next week. We can figure out, but it's very important. Thank you, Douglas. And I'll get back to you.
Okay. All right. Abe, we don't have a need to go on a closed session, do we? Wow. 7:02. Okay, one more topic. I'm sorry. Topics for future committee. Anything?
Yes, I would like to, well, Russ, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. You said I brought up to Mikkel and Kathleen. I just want to state something. I was a little thrown off. I got brought up to me about the fees for the parking and for athletics. I think that's something that needs to be discussed somewhere in future.
We did discuss it, Russ. It was all prorated from $150 to $30 for the parking. I must
have been gone. I must have been not there.
Yeah, it went from $150 and prorated to $30. I can't speak to the athletic fees, but I know we did talk about that part.
All right, I must have not been in there. I disagree, but that's besides the point.
I'll get back to you. I just wanted to get the dates right, and I just didn't have a chance. Yeah. I'll get back with you.
Okay.
All right. I would like to have a full-blown discussion about all aspects of food service, from menu selection to the contract, which I would like to get a copy of so I can understand it better, since I understand that language. When Aramark came, it was very nice, but that was really more of a dog and pony show as opposed to answering the questions that I really have. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, and I just want to make sure we're doing it as best we can. And I don't have a bad feeling about Aramark. I know they're a great company, but I want to do a full review of that topic.
So basically a full.
And I'm not sure if that goes to a committee meeting or to a full board meeting, but whatever works. I'm really looking to, I can educate you guys on that. There's not many topics that I know more about than anybody else on this call, but this is one. And I would like to share some of that and make sure we're doing it the right way.
Okay. So what I'll do is, you said full blown, which means all board members, which means monitoring, which means out on the board, in our regular.
That's
board.
fine.
Okay. All right, I will talk with Mikkel next week and we'll tee it up. Is that okay with everybody? Is that okay with you, Hal? It's your.
That's, yeah, I mean, you know what, and I know there's other topics that I saw that are listed for discussion. If it has to, you know, take its place in line, I understand. So.
Yeah, there's probably some at the full board, right? And then
It would seem to be, yeah.
And then Mark actually mentioned some other, like these little carts that they would do maybe at the beginning of next year, so make it a little more convenient, that kind of stuff within their presentation. So that may be.
That's, you know what, and all that's wonderful, that's wonderful. Yeah.
Okay.
Abe, do you think you can get me or everybody on the board a copy of that contract? Because I'd really like to go through it and kind of, you know, be able to talk to it a little bit more thoroughly and completely.
Absolutely, Hal. It's public information. We can get the entire board a copy of the contract. And so we'll get that done. Just so I'm clear, it is a separate topic, future topic to discuss the smartphone ordering for students. So that's background we're working on as well, separate to this. Just want to be clear that that's a separate topic.
Okay. And again, if it has to take its place in line, I'm, you know what, I certainly understand, you know, first come, first serve or however we're doing it, but.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your flexibility, Hal. And I'll discuss this with Mikkel next week. So we'll go from there. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other topics for future on the FNF? Okay. I will take that. So at this point, we're adjourned. 7:07.
That was quick.
What time does your meeting start, Amy?
Well, it used to start at 7.
Okay, so we can just jump right in.
Well, I don't believe Aaron is here. Is Aaron here?
And either is Jay.
Jay is not here. Jay messaged me just a little bit ago saying he is not going to be able to attend. So.
Yeah, I don't see, Aaron's not in the waiting room that I can see. Nope.
So you don't have a quorum of your committee.
I do not. I have not had this happen before.
I'm really not.
I would typically send off a quick note to Erin. I'm not able.
I'm gonna try texting her right now.
Would you mind doing that? That would be great.
Just give me 1 sec.
I would love that. Thank you. It's unusual for her not to say something.
I have to get my work phone.
I got it, Jenny. I just texted her, Jenny. Couldn't hurt though.
This hasn't happened in a while, so can you ask for a proxy from like one of the other board members? I don't know how this has been, I can't remember how that works.
I think so.
No, I don't think we can. Let me look real quick.
Thank you.
Where did Russ go? He bailed.
I think we did have this once before and we moved on through it. But,
yeah, so Kathleen, what I remember now is that, thank you, because I think what happened before, and I think it was on finance or whatever.
Yeah, it did.
That we just kind of moved forward with everything we could.
Yes.
And the one that we really needed to move forward to the board, we waited.
Right.
So. Like we put on.
I don't know. I remember with policy we canceled. There was one where we didn't have, we own like people. All I remember when Anne was in my position, she canceled the meetings when there was a conflict of 2 people not being able to be there. They were canceled.
Okay.
But I didn't get notice of this from, I didn't get notice.
It looks like Jenny's on the phone, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a call into Lori Grant, and of course she's not going to pick up this time of night, but it's certainly something that I apologize. I never in my wildest dreams thought this was going to happen to us. So it's definitely something we can look into and find out. Is there anything that we has to move ahead next?
I mean, I know we wanted to listen. I mean, the COVID update is the one thing we wanted to listen to. I suppose we could continue the finance, reconvene the finance committee meeting and continue that discussion. I don't know. Or we can, I don't know what to say.
Oh, that's a good idea, Amy. I mean, there's no outcome from the COVID discussion, right?
That's a COVID update.
It's an update, but it's not like you don't need a vote to move it forward to the board, right? So
Or do I continue? I don't know. I don't want to do acrobatics that are.
No,
Yeah.
I do know, Jeff, do we need this travel thing to go to the board next week?
Yeah, we need to try to make sure we're in the same page because we have some deadlines approaching with the travel companies at the end of the month. I think we're in good shape, but we do need the board's approval to move ahead.
Blessing to reschedule the travel that was planned in March.
It's not formal, like tonight isn't formal action. I'm not trying to like skate or anything like that, but.
So there's no formal action, so we can move forward with the meeting. It would just be if we didn't have a quorum at board, we couldn't pass things. Obviously, this doesn't happen very often because we like all 3 members to agree to move it to the full board. So Amy, that would be up to you and administration. What items do you feel comfortable moving to full board with Hal and Douglas and Kathleen? Or administration, you can share which ones must be board approved at the January 28th meeting.
She's going to be in soon. She just texted me.
Okay. And okay, good. All right. Then let's
maybe move.
Yeah, we'll just give it a minute. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because what I was going to suggest, then, if we were to go forward, then I would just go ahead and do what we've done with our own committee meeting, which is when we know that there's a question within our committee and someone isn't there, then we hold it if it's not necessary to go to the board, and that's what I was going to do. So we'll just all right.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the agenda, it's pledge.
The agenda mostly can be held with the exception of some items.
Yeah. We can probably, I mean, if you're okay with it, I mean, you can probably get going with it. None of the stuff at the beginning of the meeting really requires it, right? So.
Correct.
Up to you though. Oh wait, she's here. Hold on.
All right, let's go. Boop. All right.
Note to us. Let's make sure we know what we're supposed to do if that happens again.
Okay. Are we all good?
She's getting there.
I did verify for a 3-person committee. We do need 2 for a quorum to continue.
Yeah. All right.
I mean, I recognize that we have more than 2 board members here. I'm talking about committee, though.
It has to be the assigned board members to the committee.
It does, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So as I said, we can discuss everything, just we have to make a determination what's important that needs to go to the board agenda.
Right, and there she is. Oh, yay. Awesome.
Jay wasn't here. I can't believe F&F was only a half hour.
I know, right? I know. I know, we rolled the dice in such a way. I know.
Changing over to snow. I'm like, I have plenty of time. No big deal.
It is fine. It is fine. I'm just so glad you're here. Okay, it is. I'm sorry to make you sweat, Erin. I'm sorry you got a text. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I mean, technically I was late, so.
It's okay. I am thrilled you're here. Okay, it is 7:14 and we are going to start this P-Cube meeting. All right, calling the order. And let's see. And Erin and I are here. We're the committee members. And we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have any public participation?
Doesn't look like it.
No? Okay.
Nope.
I strongly believe in public participation, so all right. So we will close public participation at 7:15. Review of the meeting minutes from December 3rd. I did not see anything errant. Erin, what about you?
No, they were good.
Okay. All right. So we will move those along. Continuing business, 5A, Tracy.
Yeah. So, Amy, I did not preview this with you because it was sort of a last minute addition as Danielle finished up her conversations with teachers about those that can be here, those that can't with medical notes, et cetera. So armed with that new information, we felt like we should bring it here for you guys to just have an understanding of sort of where we're at with personnel and what that's going to look like. And to provide context for that, we are just kind of surrounding it with a little bit more broad information about hybrid in general. So you guys are armed with the information you need as we move into hybrid in case there's any questions or things that come to you from the public. So just kind of a broad overview. So I'm going to share my screen here, if that's okay. Okay, everyone see my return for students and staff slide? Yeah, okay. So this information has all been sent to the public in a rather robust document about the hybrid plan in general, the nuts and bolts. The building is sending information to you of its own. But I just wanted you guys, in case you hadn't seen it, to kind of get a sense of what the schedule looks like. We built this schedule kind of borrowing heavily from District 211, who went back hybrid well before us and have been having success with this schedule. What it does is allow us kind of maximum flexibility and safety to allow students to come in person, but also to build flexibility and dedicated time for those students who choose to remain remote, and to help our teachers who are trying to navigate those two worlds at the same time, kids at home and kids in front of them physically. And so we have a Monday that is the exact same Monday we have right now. It is a late start that allows teachers to prep all of their electronic materials for the week and post them. And then they see all 8 of their classes on Monday. And although that makes for a long day, our teachers felt it was important to be able to see their students, all of their students in the same format, have a conversation at the same time, to set the week up, to review what it was going to look like, to go over assignments, etc. Take any questions kids might have as they move into the week. So Monday is a fully remote day for all students, so they can engage in the same platform. Then we move into our A-B hybrid groups. We have our A students coming in on Tuesday, Wednesday, our B students coming in on Thursday, Friday. And they're going through half their classes each of the 2 days that they're in the building. So first half of the day on for example, Tuesday, Thursday, second half of the day, Wednesday, Friday. And they're there only for half a day. And that was with intention. We were not at this point prepared to have students sitting and taking their mask off and having a meal in the middle of a pandemic and asking our staff to supervise that space. So for the safety of everyone, students will be leaving. They have an hour break to get home and grab a bite. And then in the afternoon is the remote portion of the day. And the intention here is to provide flexibility for students and staff. So teachers may, all kids have to check in, even if they're remote, all kids have to check into class right at the start of class. The teacher welcomes everyone, the teacher takes attendance. And depending upon the lesson for the day, the teacher may say, I want all students, including remote students, to remain. I'm doing a demonstration, I'm doing a lecture, what have you. All students right now need to be on it. Or they may say, students are working individually for a while, so in-person students, I'll remain with you. Remote kids, I want you to check back in with me, say halfway through the period, or I want you to come in to me through these afternoon support session. I want you to come in at period 4, live synchronous support session, and I want to dedicate and focus my conversation with just my remote kids during that time. So, and it's also a time for kids that need extra support, kids that are struggling, kids that don't understand, kids that, so the whole intention of the schedule is to provide flexibility and to make sure there is dedicated time for kids at home when they need it, as well as dedicated time for kids in person. Or they all meet at the same time together, but we wanted to provide flexibility for everybody for that. So that's the Bell schedule. And we just wanted to go through some of just the high level things, just to sort of say them out loud so you can hear them and ask questions you may have. And we'll also go through some of the personnel stuff here in a second. So of course, all of this has been incredibly complex and continues to be. We have, a 50-page document that's been shared with our internal staff, and a more condensed version, but still a hearty document that's been shared with parents about the hybrid plan. And then there's been all kinds of other communications and documents and plans and questions, right? It's been incredible. And so it requires flexibility on everybody's part. And so, as I said, the intent here is to be as flexible as we can while still providing structure for students at home and students coming to school. It's important to just say out loud, right? Like, we're all super excited. I cannot wait to see students walk through that door. I really can't wait. It was so nice to stand and welcome staff as they came in this week. It truly was a highlight. And it's going to be even better to see kids. And I think parents are equally excited, right? Many of them, to get their students back in school. But it's just important to say, right, it's not school as normal. It's not kids congregating when they walk in the door and chatting it up with their friends and hanging out and having a snack, right? That's not happening. There is a fraction of kids, right? A maximum at this point of about 400 kids in a building, the entire building on a given day. And yeah, Amy.
Can I ask what the percentage is of kids coming back?
Yeah, it's well, the kids that are choosing to stay remote,
yeah,
is somewhere between 38 and 40%.
Okay, so it did switch.
It went up. It went up. Mm-hmm. So we have about 60 to 62% of kids coming in to the building, roughly equally split between the A and B groups, as best we can.
So at any one time right now, about 30% of students are in the buildings.
Yeah.
So it's 50-50.
Yep. 30-ish%. Yep.
Right.
So we're looking at about 400 kids per day total in the whole building, right? And that's with intention. We had to have 6-foot spacing in the classrooms, right? We had to provide for that spacing. So we're looking at a fraction of kids each day coming in only for half a day in person, and then they're going home for the afternoon. They're coming in twice per week physically. They're wearing masks and they're social distancing, right? So it's not this normal school experience that kids are used to and that parents are used to. And that may be a bit of a shock, right? Like, parents think kids going back to school, and it may be a bit of a shock, like it's not regular school. And they may know that in their head, but when students are experiencing it, it's going to feel different, right? We know that students may be moving between hybrid and remote. Just in the last few weeks, we've had kids that initially declared hybrid that said, never mind, I'm going remote. So that may happen, but I think more likely than not, moving forward, it will be temporary. Kids may have been exposed, or a family member's been exposed, right? So they're retreating back to remote for a couple of weeks until they can come back in safely. So we're going to have that flux in the number of kids. And what that means is that if you have a class of let's say 8 kids on a given day right now, that let's say 5 of them don't show up on a day. There could be classes that literally have 3 kids sitting in them. That can happen very realistically, and likely will happen at different points. And then Danielle's going to, as she likes to say, double click on this in a minute. But some staff have medical conditions that require that they remain remote. They can't be physically in the building. Now, many of them, when they get vaccines, might be able to come back. But we have staff who have medical conditions, some of whom won't come back even with a vaccine because of the severity of their condition. And so we have teachers, and we'll talk about numbers here in a minute, that are going to be Zooming into the class while the class is physically in the room. So we will have another adult in that space to monitor the space, to hook up the Zoom, to take, pick up your mask, that sort of stuff. And this may be short term when a teacher has been exposed or something and they need to retreat back to remote, or it could be in the case of some teachers, as Danielle will go over, it will be long term. And then to be very transparent, right, some class curriculums are going to be modified. PE, kids are not changing. They're not putting on heart rate monitor straps. So they're doing things like yoga and walking and stretching and light weightlifting. They're doing things that aren't going to make them perspire in their street clothes, right? They're doing things to get them up, a slight elevation of their heart rate, stretching, warming up, little physical activity, but they're not running the mile. They can't, right? Not right now. And then band, right? Band is not going to look like band for a little while. We are ordering all kinds of band PPE for when they can start going outside, but they can't play, toot a horn in February in the snow, right? So band is not band right now. Some will be. Guitar, they can play. Percussion, at North, they have a percussion class, they can play, right? But they're not playing saxophone right now. Okay, so moving into the staffing picture, I'll kick it over to Danielle and she can talk a little bit about where we're at and how delicate of an ecosystem this is that could kick us in and out of remote in a second. So.
Thanks, Tracy. And so I would just take the opportunity, board, if I may, to just send a huge shout out, kudos, thank you to our staff, right? They are truly heroes in this. North earlier this year had a theme for opening day of superheroes, and that is truly the best way to describe the staff in these buildings. I every day am blown away by their commitment and their passion and their willingness to roll up their sleeves and figure this out with us through countless listening sessions, surveys, one-on-one conversations, emails back and forth. They hang in with us. We've built trust. They've seen us at our most vulnerable, right, where we don't know the answers, but we're willing to figure it out for students and staff. And so I would be remiss if I didn't say a few words about them. So grateful for every single one of our 366 staff members. So very quickly, and happy to answer any follow-up questions, I would love to just paint this staffing picture while we are hybrid. So as you can see, 366 staff. So those are our D127 staff members. That doesn't count our security staff, our WFF maintenance staff, as well as our Airmark staff. Okay, so 366 of our staff. Out of those 366, 10 licensed staff are remote, 9 of which are teachers, for serious, documented medical reasons. Okay, this process, we began vetting this with our staff back in early fall, right? We had a pretty good idea of who these people might be when we first surveyed in the summer. And so all 10 of these staff and I have become the best of friends, right? And have engaged in really thoughtful conversations about the continuum of accommodation from kind of what can we provide and what are we providing, all the way to my medical professional requires me to be at home during the pandemic. And as Tracy mentioned, I would say half of the 10 have said to me, Danielle, as soon as I am vaccinated, as soon as I get that in my arm, I'm back and I can't wait to be back. So we will keep you updated as to how this number moves over time. The other piece of nuance that I'll share at this table / Zoom room is we have not granted this remote accommodation in perpetuity of second semester. I, with intention, said we will check in February 15th. How are the numbers? How are vaccines moving? So people know you have 6 weeks, right? And then we're going to check back in and see if we're still in the same place, if your doctor still makes that recommendation, and then be able to pivot people back in. So there's kind of a stopgap there. So I just want you as a board to know that, okay? So those are the 10 licensed staff. 3 educational support personnel have medical requirements that will keep them out during remote. So that's kind of the picture. The other staff are in and excited and have been in this week and have been engaged with us around, oh my gosh, this is great. We actually had a fire drill. Mikkel tweeted out about this. We had a fire situation, not a fire, but a little bit of a scare, a true fire alarm. And so there we were, kind of back at like good old days, right? All the staff outside of the fire drill, and some of our teachers with their laptops open teaching the remote kids. I mean, just amazing. So everyone else is back in action, and that's really great, as Tracy said, to see. So then as Tracy mentioned, this very delicate ecosystem, let me tell you a little bit about why, okay? We have 22 subs. That includes the 9 that are dedicated to our teaching staff. So we wanted the commitment that since 9 of our teachers will be home, we want a consistent substitute in that classroom to support kids for consistency, right? To build relationship and rapport over the next 6 weeks. So we've already made those matches. So out of that 22, 9 come away instantly because those matches have already been made. Okay, so students that are in person and remote will always see their teacher as they always have, but will always see the consistent sub because we believe that's important for kids. So right there, our numbers dip for subs. Okay, the remainder of those people will be stationed, divided as equally as possible at Central and North every day. So we are not waiting for the need to then have our sub coordinators call someone, can you get in soon? We've requested that all of our subs report to buildings by 7:45 and stay until 12:45 every day, regardless of need. Our sense is their need is going to be great, and they will be busy all 5 of those hours. So we're proud of that, right? Most districts are waiting to make those calls when they know they need them, and we're going to have our subs already in the building because we know we'll need them, right? And it'll cut down on the time it takes to get someone physically here. In pure candor, we don't have many subs as we used to. Mikkel, in a couple of meetings ago, shared that we would sit on 80 subs easy last year, 80 people. But if you think about our sub pool, it's mostly retired teachers, right, that are more veteran, right? And so instantly in a higher risk category, and they have said, I would love to help, but I just simply can't be back in person. So our numbers dwindled quickly as to who's willing to come in person. So we don't have the numbers that we hope, but we have partnered with our lovely Airmark team, and they will be providing us with, hopefully, fingers crossed, 8 staff that are not needed in the kitchen, that are willing to help us in the hallways, supervise the number of students in and out of bathrooms, right? Help us in the common areas. So we're really happy with that. But all total is 22 people. Okay? So it is so delicate because we will have people unable to self-certify in the morning. They have a new onset of a symptom. They've been exposed. They're positive. Someone in their home is awaiting a test result. Okay? We will have people that can't come in the building. We will have people that can't come in the building because of a traditional sick reason, right? Maybe I'm a migraine sufferer and I need to be in a closed room all day and I cannot Zoom in. I am not well. I'm going to take a traditional sick day, right? Nothing to do with COVID, so I'm taking a traditional day. Those things will happen. And we have to know that information by 6:25 in the morning to be able to call buses and to be able to call school. So our sub-callers and members of our HR team will be working before the sun rises to ensure we have accurate information as to how many people will be missing to make as many matches as we possibly can. The administrative team is ready. I can't wait to get back in a special ed room as a special educator by background, and we are willing to do literally whatever it takes to keep school open. But I want you as a board to know we can only do so much. Some days we will be fine, but if we get an exposure and that impacts 10 teachers, there is no way, right, we can do that. So hence the delicate nature of this structure and of this system. So that's what I wanted to share. Overall staff picture and kind of what it's going to take to remain open, given the resources that we have. Tracy, what have I missed?
Just when we say remain open, right, then it would be an all call to students to say, no physical in school today. It is all remote for all students. And so it is, timing that in such a way that teachers haven't left for work, buses haven't left to the, so it is delicate and it is time sensitive every single day.
Right. And I think that needs to be just so clear. I don't know. I really hope I so hope people really truly understand that how like you say, how delicate this is. I know everyone is so excited to come back. We've watched my dial. It's not my dial. It's how I describe it. The dial of turning things on, turning things off, how things go. But that when you have something open, you might also have something closed. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it already in places where I work. We've had things open, we've had things close. And so I just hope that everyone understands what their expectations of things opening, what it also may mean. And all of this being so delicate, as you say, I think you're extraordinarily smart in having substitutes there at the ready, no matter what. That is really brilliant, and just such a smart move on many levels. So that's very good planning. So you're hitting all these marks. But it's a community effort to make this work. Mm-hmm. And, trying to hit all this with, for students and parents to get, and to have our education be the hallmark in the community, we do need this community effort because we do have the situation of a pandemic. So, yeah. So, so it's exciting for people to have more access, but there is a realistic situation that there will be, and I don't think there will be that there may be interruptions. I think they have to go with the expectation that there will be interruptions.
Mm-hmm. This will become our new normal. And Douglas, I think you said that last month, right? Like we have to just land in a place where this is our new normal. We're going to be in person. We might have to pivot out and take an adaptive pause, then come back in, right? We're just going to learn we're going to have to do that.
Yeah, and there will be days where you see people in the Zoom room subbing a class. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Kathleen.
So my question is, what is your community? You've probably got a communication strategy already lined up. Has it been communicated to the community as to what those expectations are, and are all of the kids aware of what their role is, what everyone's role is in this very delicate ecosystem of ours?
Yeah. So we prepared a hybrid document that lists about everything that we could have that students need to know, the parents need to know about hybrid. And that's been shared out multiple times, starting back in November when we first were hoping to come back. But since then, multiple times. Buildings have equally been sending out communications, and will do so again, around expectations of students and staff and self-certification and masking and what's allowed, what's not allowed when they're in the building. So yes, and we hit that all again today with our staff at a listening session too on their end of things, the expectations for staff and masking and all of that. So we've tried really hard to communicate as often and as much and as clearly as we can. So that's my hope. And more reminders are coming out this weekend to students to say, remember, see you Tuesday hybrid, here's our new schedule.
And so, depending on if you're going, but you're always doing school from the kids can always log in regardless. They're always logging in. There will always be someone there. That's the goal. So remote school is always going on, where we are always going on.
Yeah.
And so it's the turning on and off is just that one component of it. But otherwise, we're moving forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
How are the teachers, we try to take this pulse all the time. We've been doing this since the very beginning, how they're doing. And I'm hearing excitement, which is really good. I just want to make sure that, and we've been trying to do this, just really and this is what we hear from you. But we just want to make sure that is definitely the case, that they're feeling good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, right? I mean, Danielle, you
yeah,
can.
And I think the proof is in the pudding, right, Amy? Out of 366, only 13, right? And I think I shared in an initial, just a broad communique with you at the board table. When we initially sent out our surveys, we had 85 staff say, yikes, I'm anxious, right? And we engaged individually, right? And said, let me talk you through every piece. Trust me, come in, try it, right? And they did.
Okay.
I mean, I hear horror stories in other districts that they're down 80 staff. So while we do get questions and wonders, and we're in a pandemic trying to open school, right? Like, oh my gosh. Of course, there's people that are concerned and nervous and say, I'm going to wear my mask and I'm going to leave as quickly as I can at the end of that school day to get home and work remotely in the afternoon with children. And they've expressed that, right? And so we welcome candor. We welcome that. We're not trying to be Pollyanna. We're trying to be realists. And so overall, I would agree with Tracy. I think the majority of staff are excited to be back.
Yeah, we've tried really, really hard. Our primary goal is to communicate as often and as transparently as we can. And so we've had, I don't even know how many listening sessions with staff. I don't know that I could count them. After school, we had another one today. And the whole point of that is to hear their questions, provide answers. If we don't have them, get the answer, creating question documents that we type in answers. I mean, the goal is to let them know that we hear them, that we are working together, that we are a team, that we got this. And so staff have had an opportunity over and over and over again to talk with us, to hear from us, to express any questions. And they have got tons of them, legit questions, and we've worked through them. So
yeah, let me, if I can add also, helping the situation, I think, is a very good relationship with the union. So working with Chris Hoge, the president, I mean, they had a union meeting the other day, and Chris said, hey, these are the questions that are coming up. And most of them were questions that we've addressed before. Doesn't matter. There's a lot of stuff coming at people. Totally get it. So that was one of the goals of today. So that's been extremely helpful. And again, not like that in other districts. So it gets icky. So.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
Amy.
no, go ahead, Kathleen.
When I've had an opportunity to speak to a few teachers, and I think when we came out early and said we don't know enough to go back right away, some of the teachers said, I couldn't believe you guys did that. And, you gave us a lot of time to think about what we had to do in the fall and get ready. We felt like you guys put our health first. And they said that they really appreciated, all the work that you guys have been doing. And so I really love to think that we're a high trust ecosystem, and that's important to us. And we may not have all the money and all the bells and whistles, but we really care about, what is it, Danielle? People are our jam around here.
People are our jam, Kathleen.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yes, and I think it's coming back and helping us, right? I mean, in these tough times, because it's so important. But you guys, wow, I'm Amy, I'm just going to stop, but I just want to let you know that what I'm hearing is that they really feel, even though everything is tough out there, that the people in here are compassionate. And so thank you for that.
Thank you. It means so much to hear that.
I I just always want to get that touch point, right? And just allow that to come through because it's super important, and allowing staff in any building to ask a lot of questions. It allows things to bubble up, or allows things to, those solutions to pull through too. So I think it strengthens what you have, and that's good. So, and if people feel safe in where they're going, that's really important, and not just in a cosmetic way, but in a real way, by learning through all these pieces that have come forward now over these months. So, anyway,
Yeah.
Erin, did you have something to say?
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, Tracy and Danielle and the rest of, you guys have just done been dealing with the impossible, and you've made it happen, and just so thoughtful and carefully planned out. I knew back last summer that we would have kind of this revolving door, in, out, and I think you guys have developed a plan that's going to accommodate that so well that somebody can go and be remote for 2 weeks while they're quarantining and not miss a beat. And that would have been the worst, is if kids had to sit at home and twiddle their thumbs for 2 weeks, and that's not going to happen. And to have only 13 teachers not coming in. And with my other jobs, we've got people with health conditions. That's about average, that's not exceptional. So that's awesome, and that's a testament to how hard you guys have worked. So I am a little, is the sub shortage, is that, I know going from 80 to 22, that's significant. Are other districts struggling with this?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yes, I had to arm wrestle another HR. I'm just kidding, but yes, everyone is struggling with getting subs. They're just not there because, as I mentioned, Erin, so many of our subs are traditionally retired teachers, right? Who are nervous for their own health in hybrid.
Oh, absolutely. Conversely, obviously, because that is the high risk, want to ask somebody to come in. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's a major challenge.
Yep.
I have a quick question, Amy, if it's okay. I remember a couple of years ago we resolved, there was a sub shortage before, and there was a lot of conversation. I remember there was a lot of conversation around that, and we raised, we paid our subs a little bit more money to try to be competitive. And, one of the things that I wanted to ask Abe about, which I'll just pop it in there now, is that there probably have been quite a bit of savings too, related to the way that we're doing business now. Would it be, this is the wrong time to talk about this, but maybe we could have a conversation at some point about if we could pay them more so that we could shore up. Can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, because everything went blank here. I get the okay, but I'm glad you see me. So maybe if we could maybe do a little bit of thinking around that so that you don't have to wrestle as much. I would pick you in a fight any day of the week, Danielle. You're mine. I love you. But I really don't. But I think it would be maybe, I don't know, just something that I wanted to put out there. That if that could be something that would take some of the edge off it a little bit, so that we can take some of that saved money and use it to help us at this point, I don't know.
Indeed, pre-pandemic, we were actually fairly competitive, but now I'm seeing districts, it's almost become a bidding war to some degree. Districts just really increasing these daily rates incredibly. So although we've saved in substitute costs, we have to look at the overall big picture. There's some revenue shortfalls. There's going to be a proration from the state, probably. We haven't received all of our local property taxes just yet. There is a sense by April we should receive the remaining amount. CPI was established, by the way, for the year just recently at 1.4%, which is better than zero, what we were initially thinking. But absolutely, Kathleen, that's something we can absolutely look at and assess and adjust as needed.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be I don't want to dig it too much into this, but if you could give us an idea of how much more at some point, when you do the analysis, I'm really curious as to how much they're bidding this up. Because I don't want to be falling behind. I want us to be competitive. I know you're on it, but okay.
And just to give you a little, kind of qualitative data, Kathleen, every year my HR team of 23 high school districts gets together and says, all right, everybody, what's your sub rate, right? Who's stealing our sub? And we are right on during a non-COVID time. Everyone, even a Stevenson, hovers right around $125 a day for daily subs, right around there. Anywhere from about 120 to 130. So we are in the sweet spot. But during COVID times, I am not exaggerating. I spoke with a high school district that said we're up to $185 a day. Now, I did not tell them my little secret that I have some additional subs because I'm guaranteeing them work every day. They love that. I didn't share that with anybody other than you, right? Right? That's a secret.
We can't share this YouTube with anyone.
Yeah, no. Right? But right,
what did I say? What did I do?
All of this can
thought
be
about that a little bit differently, right? Rather that, because the other piece of candor, we can't get too high because our paraprofessionals, some of our paraprofessionals make $16 an hour.
Right.
And the last thing we need is our paras to resign and take a sub position, even temporarily. So right, there is an element of you got to find that spot. But outside of COVID time, I think we're okay. But we'll check in.
Okay.
So that was it for our COVID update, but just felt it was important to share with you guys where we're at, what we're looking at as we move into Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Thank you so much. Appreciated that.
Yeah.
All right. So going on, we've got new business, field trips.
Yeah. So in your packet, starting on page 7, I believe, you will find a summary and some itineraries. Just as background, you'll recall last year we were unable to travel in March due to COVID, the initial outbreak of COVID. And those parents, many of them rolled over into this spring break, took vouchers, rolled those vouchers over into this spring break to travel. And here we are. Who knew that a year later we would still be in a predicament where we can't travel safely internationally in March. But we want to try really hard to give this another go. So we are proposing a couple of rescheduling of the trips. The first reschedule would be, we hope, pending vaccines, pending that it's safe to do so. We would like to at least give it a go for seniors that were otherwise supposed to go to Europe in March, that seniors can travel in July. We have 2 teachers that are 2 teachers who typically chaperone our international trips, are prepared to chaperone, again, pending safety, pending vaccines, and the ability to do so. But we would like to at least try to reschedule this for a time that we hope they might be able to go. And so that would be just for our seniors, for those who couldn't go last year's juniors, now can't go this March, right? Can we reschedule and give them this opportunity to try in July? And then we would like to just push again to next March, those students that aren't seniors and those students that can then next year travel in spring break, where we are quite hopeful, knock on wood, we will be safe to travel next March. So the details are outlined in the document, and Jeff is here because he's been really our point person with the companies on this, and working with Todd Grunlow and other teachers who run these trips. So we are hoping that the board will allow us to reschedule these. The alternative to not rescheduling them is just telling parents, you have to take the financial hit that your insurance doesn't cover because we can't travel. So that's why we're hoping to at least try to reschedule these and provide an opportunity to our families to utilize those vouchers. So happy to take questions. Jeff, add details that I didn't, if I missed anything.
No, I think that was good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I don't think there's a ton of limit, a ton of risk for us by postponing and kind of rescheduling these further out. You know, for example, if we can't travel late July, early August, those students could still take the same refund policy that they would access right now. You know, so there's still that same safeguard. The money for all these students has already been committed. A lot of these students had already even signed up and paid a lot of this at last year, because a lot of our trips get booked out 2 years out. You know, so a lot of these students have been in the process. So none of these are new enrollees from any of our conversations from last year. You know, this is all students that had committed pre-March of last year. You know, it's hard to believe we were sitting here talking about this 9 months ago. But we're, again, talking about travel 7 months out, you know, essentially looking at, you know, late summer right now. And, you know, I'm going to try to be optimistic here that it seems like there are a lot of positives that could allow this to happen safely. But I think for the board, right, to sit here and realize that whether we make the decision now, if we had to cancel versus canceling 65 days out from that August date, puts our families in the same financial position. You know, they'll still be able to access all the same refunds. And for ACIS, if a student, again, just to remind you, if they have to take that hit, it's $1,000 hit for that trip.
So that's the summary for the Europe trip. Yeah.
More than happy to answer any questions on that. I've been chatting back and forth with these companies, it feels like, since we stopped this back last March. And we did send communication out to families just as a reminder, you know, from our last meeting. We sent email out right around mid-December, just letting them know that we'd be making final communication at the end of January with options and kind of where we stood on these trips. We did give them the heads up that these trips were on hold. And again, our cancellation dates are right during this week. So we're trying to make some decisions here to set these families up with clear choices and information.
So you have any questions about the Europe rescheduling of these trips?
Seems like we get to buy time at no cost.
Correct. Yeah.
So what's not to like about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in this that's really out of our hands. These are all trips that were, you know, done last year and trying to make it work for this year. And these were all decisions done last March when we were still not clear of what we were all up against. So, you know, allowing families to move forward and use a voucher, but the voucher will you know, what I think may happen is, I don't know if that's terribly relevant, just allowing them to use a voucher, right? We need them to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the power too is it gives some option, right? You know, it again provides option to those families. You know, we know that comfort level, no matter, you know, some families would say now for sure they're not comfortable, but at least it gives the option for those families that do want to continue to pursue this, given, you know, good health metrics and access to vaccination.
Right. And my only concern that I had voiced when I had said this is that that they would have to go in with eyes open, is that that if we were to be sending people with teachers on what is essentially a field trip overseas, if someone gets sick, that's a quarantine situation that involves teachers or chaperones, that will involve time. That's significantly different than somebody feeling ill a couple days, maybe get on a plane a couple days later. It's just a very different environment. So the consideration is different than a typical field trip.
Mm-hmm.
And that potential was really my only concern. I think it's still a big one, but that would be my concern. So that would be what you'd have to look at, what you're up against and what chaperones and families would be up against should that element be there.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I'm just very glad that the companies did. There's a very possibility of losing a whole year of students. You know, they could have gone bankrupt. We're very lucky.
Yeah.
You know that they're still there. They can still choose. You know, and I guess is I'm you know, I'm the numbers nut, so I'm looking at all of these data and I'm looking at these different countries and like I have a friend in New Zealand and everything's normal there. You know, is there options for some of these parents where I know it's great to have a school sponsored trip, but there might be parents that go, well, I'm not so sure about Europe, but Australia looks really nice and the booklet has a trip to Australia. Do they have those options as well?
Aaron, that's a great question. Our families do have access to all those. They wouldn't travel with us as a school, but ACS has put together a series of different options that students can use vouchers for on their own during the summer. And all of our families have that information. We'll be putting it out in that January communication as well.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's awesome just because, you know, if something happens and the school trip to Europe can't happen, then still parents have other options.
Yep.
Yeah, I would feel good about that. That's a great suggestion, and Aaron, because the next kind of well, that takes care of what I was just saying too.
Yeah,
it's my understanding that was available last year, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's continuing.
Right.
Yeah, but I doubt they had any trips, but
No, they didn't, but the option was there going forward. If I remember correctly,
Yeah, you're correct, Kathleen.
I have a question. This kind of tees off of Amy's question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'd like to see, or if you guys can check it out, what would be the SOP, the standard operating procedure, if someone did get sick? And what does that procedure look like? Because I think that the parents need to know that, because let's say the kids do get sick, like Amy said, the parents may think it's the schools or that, you know, company's responsibility to get their kid back, and maybe that's not true. You know, I just said I would like to see some type of, you know, plan of action.
Yeah, Douglas, I can get you more information on that. We did start to embark on that conversation. There is a new quarantine insurance that's actually built in. The company has done a significant amount of work around this preparation, so I can work on getting some more detailed information to you guys on that.
Thanks.
Other questions about the Europe reschedule? Okay. So I would love to bring these to the full board next week and see if we can't allow these reschedules to happen so we can communicate that to families.
I'm okay doing that. I would suggest bringing it with the additional information.
So I'm hopeful that we can get that and email it out to you guys.
Sure.
In advance of the board, in advance of the packet, hopefully.
Yeah. That seems reasonable.
Well, maybe not packet because that's tomorrow. As soon as we can get it, we'll email it to you. Yeah.
because this is time sensitive, right? There is a time sensitivity to this. And what is that time sensitivity, Tracy or Jeff? Or
We are right around that point. You know, we need to move ahead with canceling this. It's not safe for our kids to travel in March. You know, that's a kind of this collective agreement.
okay.
So we're going to make that decision. You know, we just need we need the board to act upon approving this next round so we can give these families options.
Okay. And then we can figure that out, those details we can, then we would come up to another trip and then we would be in this situation again. Is that right? Is that what we're talking about? For example, if they planned a trip for July or August, then when that trip would come up and we would approve it at that time. Is that right? Or would it be approved?
You guys would be approving our ability to reschedule this trip to July, August.
Okay.
And 2 next March. So we are asking for next week for the board to approve these new dates for these trips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we,
Yeah, and one of the reasons why, Kathleen, is because essentially once we make the decision to cancel this, these families are going to be in limbo, essentially, with this kind of money sitting with them. So that's why we wanted, within the next kind of week or two, try to give them some updates of option. And we've been communicating with these families regularly, almost weekly. I'm chatting with somebody. So they've been really understanding. They appreciate the board's support. And I do think there's some interest around these options, and I already have some documentation. We had started this conversation, so I'll get that to Tracy to share out tomorrow.
okay, great. Thank you.
I really feel for them. We've canceled 2 ourselves. I feel for them. So
Yeah. Thank you.
So that takes care of the Europe. There is one other trip floating out there that was a reschedule from South Africa. You'll remember we canceled South Africa last year. There are, Jeff, 5?
6. Yep, 6 students.
People that hung in there to try to go to the trip this summer. Actually May, right? End of May, right after school gets out. And that's with a different company. That's with EF. And we are in the final, Jeff, you can speak to this, the final throes of collaborating with EF on options for that. So if I don't know if you want to talk about, so we'll bring that forward next meeting or a future meeting. But Jeff, you want to speak to that for a second?
Yeah, so we weren't sure if we're going to mention it tonight. We've been going back and forth with EF on contract language. We weren't necessarily satisfied with the contract language they were presenting. This is our 11th year working with EF, and that class is unique, that exploring world culture, because it's a classroom experience first, and then they travel to the country they study. So we finalized some contract language today that we'll bring forward coming up that allows any student to, if the board approves this trip for the summer of 2022, say we start advertising this summer into the fall. If we don't have 18 students to run the course and the trip, they'll guarantee full refund to any student that committed cash up to that point. So it provides an option for these 6 students to, again, not be forced into taking the financial hit. And again, for that trip, it's $500. It allows, again, for this continued option. We also feel very confident around Australia and New Zealand in the long term. The country's done a very good job managing the pandemic. So again, more information to come. The contract language puts very limited risk upon us. It matches the same contract language they've used in the past with us. So it can allow families to safely commit, see if we can run this trip, but still have an option to full refund up till October 31st if we don't have 18 students interested.
So making final agreements on that, and we'll bring that forward as soon as it's clean and ready to bring to you, maybe next month or sometime soon.
Yep.
But for next board meeting will just be the Europe rescheduling.
And Tracy, one more piece I would add real quick with the Australia trip. So if we are going to enroll new students, an important piece that we've chatted about is just trying to make sure our families kind of have more protection in the future given the unknown of what global health might look like. EF has finalized an insurance package that's canceled for any reason. Okay, so now a family can opt for this insurance, and I believe it's up to 48 hours back and still get almost all their money back outside of insurance. And the policy does cost a little bit more, but it provides a really nice option to avoid being in this situation again.
Any other questions about travel?
Yeah, I would never want a family to be in this position again.
No.
That's for sure. Or a school.
Yeah. It's been challenging. Sure.
Yeah, I think everybody's learned a little bit. I mean, there's a million reasons why a trip would get canceled that doesn't have to do with a worldwide pandemic. So that's actually probably a really good thing moving forward. I know people who have had to cancel major vacations because somebody got in a car accident and broke an arm.
Yeah.
Right.
It is worth recognizing, Todd Grunlow and Jill Tomasillo, they've been answering parent phone calls and communication for 9 months on this, and they've just been absolutely incredible, with the grace and patience in trying to get this right. And again, the stress around it, we're really thankful to have teachers that have such such a depth of travel experience and relationships with their families, so kudos to them for the work they put in.
And to Jeff, who's been working his tail off, communicating with these companies and pushing them to get where they really need to be and should have been from the beginning. So he's done a ton of work.
Yes. We recall some of those first suggestions they had, and we did not appreciate that. And I'm glad we pushed back and said, try again.
Yeah.
So sorry that we suggested that there would be some pushback, but they, some business practices need to be stronger. So thank you for doing that work, for pushing them in the right direction. It's good. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Amy.
Yeah, we definitely noticed that you had to do a lot of work. So.
And probably what we probably didn't hear is the number of other schools who canceled their trips after us, who probably appreciated your pushback because they're much nicer with them.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, Erin. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll move this forward, right, Erin? Erin, are we moving this forward? Yes?
Yes, and thumbs up.
Okay, thumbs up. I'm sorry. And I shouldn't just lead with, I shouldn't lead with a yes. That's not appropriate, so I apologize for that. Okay. All right, so 6B, CEDAL contracts for 2021, 2022.
Yep, these are...
Tracy and Mark?
Yep, I'm here, sorry. Just trying
Mark.
to find my mute button. How are you guys?
We're great. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. These are our typical contracts that we contract through service. It's been a long day. These are the contracts that we utilize for service through CEDAL. These are our occupational therapists, physical therapists, pre-vocational work for some of our students that need jobs in our communities, and the LASSO itinerant services, which is services for students with a little bit more severe autism that need a little bit of that extra planning for their classes. So this year we are sticking with the same, for next year we're sticking with the same level of services that we had for this year. And it's remained the same for the past couple of years. It seems to be kind of a sweet spot for us. We did raise the occupational therapy a few years ago. Again, that was because of our influx of students with autism and need for a little bit more sensory instruction and input. And that has made a difference, and so we're sticking with that. So you will notice this year the total cost is about $121,000, and that's down about $9,000 from last year. And the fall is just because of some younger staff. Some of the older staff at CEDAL had retired, and they got some of the younger pups in there, as they said. So so they pass on the savings to us in that scenario. But if you guys have any questions, I'm here, and go ahead.
It looked very similar to me.
Yeah.
I did not notice the reduction. I'm sorry about that, but that's cool. But I did notice that the numbers looked about the same. So.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions, Erin?
No, I'm good. I'm glad to see that we don't have it, and obviously with this year, I'm concerned, are we going to have an increase in need? Mm-hmm. So hopefully, I'd rather be higher staff than lower.
Right.
Well, and the nice thing for this is these services are not typically the ones that we would see the increase in service for, especially around some of the COVID pieces. A lot of that is going to be the social workers and, just making the contacts with the people that they see on a daily basis back in the schools. So their teachers, their typical service providers, speech and language pathologists that they see, like I said, social workers. So those are the positions that are really going to play a big role in, when students are coming back in and getting acclimated again, and working with the families in that sense as well, because I think it's going to be an adjustment for all of them. But the services that we do get through CEDAL are the ones that we don't use enough to have somebody full-time, and so they do provide good services for the small amount that we do need them.
Are there additional questions? Kathleen? No? I can't remember who else is on the call still. Hal? Let's see. Douglas, are you still on? Yes, Douglas? No. Okay. All right. Move that forward. Erin, your thoughts?
No, I'm fine moving that forward.
Okay, we will do that.
Thanks
All
all.
good. All right. All right, on to item 7, board policy review.
So starting on page 46 of your packet, you'll find the policies for this month. There's quite a few of them, but like last month, only some of them need to go forth for board approval. Many of them are footnote changes only. So the
Do you want to share your screen or do you want me to on this one?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Let's see if I can do it this time. You see that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Okay. There we go. I don't do that. All right. Okay, which part are we at now?
There we go.
Operational
Yep.
services. Okay.
Yeah. So policy 490, student activity and fiduciary funds. There is some language change in this policy to add fiduciary funds as a separate category that is to be supervised by the superintendent or designee. The footnotes kind of explain what a fiduciary fund is, but essentially monies from an outside party that we sort of hold on to but have no control over where those monies go. An example might be student scholarship fund, where an outside party, has the money and doles out the money, but we are overseeing it while we have it. So Abe, if I misspoke about that, please correct me.
No, very nicely done, Tracy. You've got CSBO written all over you. So the majority of the changes are due to GASB, the Government Accounting Standards Board. They issued new standards to improve financial reporting on behalf of governments. Their goal is to provide better information for financial statement users. In 2017, January of 2017, they issued GASB 84 fiduciary activities. In a nutshell, it basically narrows the definition of a fiduciary fund. It clarifies how the funds should be treated in financial statements. You would have noted that on our AFR. Previously, different organizations defined and reported fiduciary funds in different ways. With this, they're making it more consistent. For us, examples of fiduciary accounts, we've got 3 scholarship accounts. We've got the flex spending account, as well as our PPO medical plan account. So the changes really do reflect our current practice of being responsible and for supervising these accounts. Our auditors do review these accounts as part of their annual audit process. And so as a result, we do support the recommended changes to these to the policy as well as the associated footnotes. Any questions about that?
So we already have the policies in place to support this language. Is that what you just said?
Correct. So GASB 84 was implemented in January of 2017.
Okay.
Where auditors were required to fulfill that requirement.
So then we're just getting the policy update now.
Yes.
That's basically it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
I don't have any questions related to this. Erin, do you?
No, it makes sense.
Kathleen, do you have additional questions? Douglas? Or do other board members have questions?
Nope.
I can't see you very well. Okay,
I'm
Hal?
good.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, we will move on. Erin, to move this forward. Are you good?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I can't see you at the moment. I'll see if I can scroll down.
No, I'll just talk. I can't see you anyway, so.
Okay, then we'll agree to that because I can't see your normal thumbs up. Okay, all right, we will move on to students.
Yep.
7-100.
Yep. So health, eye, dental exams, immunizations. There is no change in practice for us as a result of this language update. They now require that the school nurse be a registered nurse. We already have a registered nurse. It's not a change in practice for us, but they've updated that language in a couple different policies you see tonight. And that's really the only change of significance here. And then there's some footnote updates.
Mm-hmm. I don't have any questions to this. Yeah. Erin?
No, I'm good. You know, it definitely it's not an issue for us, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kathleen? Okay, anyone else?
No.
Okay. All right. And these are ones that we don't these are not going, is that?
They are. These do go to the board.
These are going to the board, right? Yeah, okay. So I thought, okay. So Erin, are you okay moving this forward?
Yep.
Okay, we will do that. All right, moving along. Oh, yes. Okay. All right, search and seizure.
Yeah. So there is no change in language at all here. They updated some legal references, some new laws and court cases that apply to the policy as written. So they updated the legal references for you. And you can see there's a few footnote updates as a result of the legal reference changes, but no change in policy or practice.
Right. All right. Does anyone have any questions about this? Erin?
I'm good.
No questions here.
Kathleen's okay? No questions? Okay. Yeah, a lot of these go back to Supreme Court rulings, so.
Yep.
Happen to know that, so. Okay. All right, so are we okay moving those forward, Erin?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right, we will do that. Students 7-300, extracurricular athletics.
Yeah, so here you see a second policy where they've updated the language to say registered nurse.
Yep.
Again, no effect on us. We already have one.
Okay. Any questions, Erin?
No, I'm good.
Okay, move that forward.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments?
No.
Okay. Here we go. All right, and now we are on to 7345, use of educational technologies, student data privacy and security.
Yes, so this is the one we've been working on the last couple of months. This is the taking of the our old existing data privacy policy, merging it with the new one from the state that they wrote now that SOPA is law.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took and merged those two policies. So anything you see in blue is what I took from our existing data policy as we discussed last meeting and pulled it over into this document. So now the state document, which has SOPA language in it, is the basis, and we pulled over that from our policy that we wanted to include. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the complete document
Mm-hmm.
that we discussed.
Yep. Okay, good. Excellent. So one question I had about it is when students receive their or when students and parents receive their notifications for signing up for these things, how they receive it. So it's in their policy, it's in like the policy handbook. Can they receive it also like when they sign up for, when they get their handbooks in the, for like registration, or when they you know, sign up for, I guess it's when they sign up for registration.
Yeah.
So like when, you know, do you agree to do this survey? Yes. Do you agree this is what it will be? Yes. And this, and then link maybe back to this?
Yeah, and yeah, anytime we were going to do a survey or whatever, right, there's a separate permission that we would send out.
That delineates it more
Yeah.
of what it is?
Yeah, so that parents know each time, right, what they're being asked to do. So when it
Okay.
comes to surveys, yes, there's separate kind of approvals.
Okay. 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 Are there questions about this policy? Erin?
No, I'm okay with it. You know, we'll see what happens in the next 6 months, but the General Assembly back in session. But yeah, this is good.
Okay. Yeah. Right. They just got back. Like they were up all night.
Yep.
They're up all night. Kathleen.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. You know, I agree with Erin that there will be a lot of changes coming down the line, and I think there's a lot more sensitivity around this. My one concern is for the survey information. I think that some of the surveys that were taken, I've said this before, is kind of moving into mental health. And I think that we need to be very sensitive on who sees that information, and that parents know that the more surveys that kids are taking, the more of a kind of a view that it's having of their mindscape. And I do think that we need to be, you know, very sensitive around this because I think it's kind of crossing a line. And I think it's, I'm hoping that there'll be more people thinking about this at a higher level. I know you guys are doing your best to try to gather up as much information as you can and be helpful to kids. My concern is that this information, if it gets into the wrong hands, if it's scooting around through the system, teachers have it, maybe people who are looking at it who don't have a background is not a social worker, the kind of interactions that are needed, and just generally having this information floating around that I think is crossing a line into health data. It really worries me. But okay, I've said my piece.
I would assume that some of that information from you guys, because I'm sorry, I work in the HIPAA world, that, you know, some of that information is legally, it can't be shared in certain ways. So you have to be doubly protected. I would assume any software provider understands that as well. Because I believe if you're dealing with mental health data, you suddenly become part of Part 11 of the Code of Federal Regulations. So you have to be very careful with it.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed this before, right? It's not really mental health data. It's student perceptions of the school. And only people that see it are our social workers, our counselors, our SST staff. It is not widely available to anyone outside of those people who work in that world.
Are those safeguards in writing somewhere? Do we need to mention this, or is there some
safeguards for?
the kind of practice that you just talked about, limiting the number of people who are seeing it. I mean, when we had the, I think when Meg Light came to the board, she was talking about perhaps teachers having this information on their computers. That was part of that discussion back then. And that wasn't very long ago.
Yeah.
And also our social workers said that they did not use the data from Panorama in their work. They were using different sets, broader sets of data. Mm-hmm. And it was the deans who were using these impressions. And so I think I'm hearing different things.
Nothing has changed, Kathleen, since Meg and them were here last. They're using the information in the same way as we shared with you. Nothing has changed. And I'm trying to find it. But we do discuss in here that, you know, only the people that need the information get the information. But yeah, so there's nothing new, Kathleen. We haven't changed our practice around that since it was last described.
I wasn't intending on going, well, just based on what Kathleen just said though, if there's a difference between an intention and something that's either a procedure or a policy. Don't know where I mean.
Are you asking me, Kathleen, or Amy? I'm sorry.
Maybe it's just a statement.
Okay.
I mean, if it's the procedure not to have certain pieces of information go to a group or a subset of people, then that should, then there should, then that should be either as a procedure or a policy, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we want to make a policy, right, specific to a certain software. I think this is pretty encompassing more broadly of protecting data. And since we wrote our last policy that we merged over, there's not a shift in who accesses that data from the specific software you guys are referring to. But more broadly,
I'm actually not referring to any specific software.
Oh, okay.
If Aaron mentioned HIPAA related, something that might be HIPAA related, so I'm kind of tagging onto that. So something that might be HIPAA related might only go to one cohort of personnel because that's where it should go and it would be very contained. Then what do you do with that? And what is that chain look like? Anyway, I don't want to go down into those weeds, but that would be, you must have that.
Yeah, I mean, it specifies in here, right, that only certain people can access it, you know, that need it, that it's how it's safeguarded, how it can't be shared. That's sort of outlined in this policy for us.
Right, and your procedures then would follow that if you've got protected data, protected pieces and you know, student data or student, you know, something that is, you know, if you've got some, you know, health records and stuff, something like that, you can't, it just can't go to anywhere. You just can't.
Right, and that's, yeah, that's in another policy. We have student records and student
right, that's true.
Policy and that outlines that there as well.
That's true.
Yeah, at least with HIPAA stuff, I would assume that that's in some policy somewhere internally, and then also any software that would come in would already have been checked. I mean, HIPAA's from 1996, so
yeah,
it's not covered.
There's an extensive, and we don't necessarily need to go on that today, but there is an extensive process that Jess is beginning in terms of, yes, vetting the companies very, 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 very carefully. It's a long but important process that Jess is doing. So yes, they are vetted, and we also have other policy that addresses student record and personal information and what we can and can't do with it.
So survey data then is, do the parents have to say yes to it? Parents say, yes, the student can take this survey. Or is it not explicit? It's if the parent doesn't notice it, the kid's taking the survey. They do, in other words,
it's opt out.
It's opt out. So a parent could not have read it and the kid would be asked to take the survey. Is that it?
It is opt out. We send it out to every family, and they opt out.
Should it be opt-in?
I mean, we've discussed this before, right? Like opt-in would result in almost no one, you know, I just don't think people would go out of their way to opt in. But those that feel strongly are going to go ahead and opt out.
Fair
So
enough.
you know,
Okay.
and I'm trying to find the cross-reference.
Is there a problem with that actually being consent? That there's no actual consent there? I mean, I know there's been so much, I don't want to get in the weeds with this, but I'm very concerned with, I mean, even with people, you know, I'm very concerned with people not explicitly saying yes to this. But to surveys. But I'll leave it there. Because I don't think it's absolutely, you know, we talk about transparency and we talk about, you know, if you're saying no one would do it, I mean, then no one knows what they're doing. Is that fair? Because if this data is going to be around and it belongs to the kids for a long time, even though we have rules, but I think we have an understanding that things that we think are safe in computers aren't always. And if people are making, I'm just very concerned about it. I don't know if it's absolutely being straight up with people, just to expect their kids to take something when they take a survey of any kind without them giving their explicit consent. That's how I feel about it, because I think that, to me, that's right, but maybe my idea of right needs to be thought through more. But it seems to me that asking, because of the nature of some of the information and because it is tied to their personal record, personally identifiable information, it should have a higher standard of agreement, an understanding of what it does so that people can opt in.
We can revisit it again. For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if that pertains to this policy in particular, or if that's more of a procedure you'd like us to think through.
I'm just putting it out there for the team to think about, and for the board to think about.
Well, and Kathleen, we kind of did, right? I mean, we approved Panorama, and now we're talking about this particular policy. At some point, we have to either, finish the discussion and move on, or just stop. I mean, I know we're talking about a policy, so it's totally valid to talk about this.
Hold on a second here. Panorama is a multi-dimensional platform. There's a lot of things going on, and you can agree. But what we're talking about right now is we're talking about surveys connected to personally identifiable information.
No, you understand it. I mean, I'm deep into,
Okay.
But,
and we're also talking about if there are surveys connected to personally identifiable information, what is our, in good faith, how do we think about that? And yes, we have had conversations about Panorama. Panorama is more than just a survey tool. There are other aspects to it. This is one aspect, and there are other surveys as well. There are many surveys, but connecting them to personally identifiable information is interesting and different. And so I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done. I'm saying is what is our commitment to the student and to the parents in this kind of situation. So I don't want to rush by it, and I just want to think about it. I think it's important to, as a governance team, that we do that. Or at least that the information is put out there for us to consider. That's it.
Okay.
I'm comfortable having the conversation, determining if this is we're in a committee meeting just going over the policies, if this is a procedure or in a policy, and we're talking about personal identifiable information, and surveys dovetail into it. So I wasn't planning on talking about Panorama per se, but here, there anyway. So it's okay.
Yeah. I actually think surveys are, I feel like they're addressed in a different policy. This is more broad about how we protect data.
Yeah.
I think survey in terms of opt-in, opt-out or information, I think that actually is in a different policy. I don't have it at my fingertips at the moment. Okay. But if we were going to clarify language, I think it would occur there.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole, but I mean, my thought was like if there's, like when people are signing up for something, whether or not this could be tagged on, like as like they would, almost see it as like a bit.ly or a link that here's your, I don't know, here it is. This is the security we're providing you. But
yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I believe that's policy 715, student and family privacy rights surveys.
That's it. Okay.
And there's surveys are, I think, specifically referenced there.
Yeah.
It's 4 surveys.
That's about the bulk of the policy.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. The procedures, though, of how all the data, all the surveys, it's all important. I think this is an important conversation. I think it's a really important conversation. So the questions that Kathleen raised, are there some procedures here that can be addressed? Possibly. Are there some things that, as we continue to monitor, I mean, that's part of the work, so.
Yeah.
And I will say, to Douglas's point, though, the first time where there was this, in my mind, where there was this moving into a different area that kind of raised flags for me, was with that software, but it's general. And I think the federal government has even come out, and I actually have the documentation around here somewhere, asking school boards to be very, very careful with, with these surveys. And so maybe when we continue the conversation, maybe we look at the family privacy or something like that later, the 715, I can get that information. But I think it's I do agree with Amy that it is a general conversation, because technology is encroaching more and more into learning more about us, and we have to be careful, especially with developing young emerging humans. Things change, and you don't want stuff to be out there that's not. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, we take their privacy seriously, of course. Hence, right, we've been so careful with our policy and this new one. So yes, important indeed.
Okay. All right, I appreciate the conversation here. Would anyone else like, Erin, do you have anything additional that you'd like to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Hal?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Douglas?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you for the
Okay.
discussion.
Kathleen, anything else? Okay, got a thumbs up. All right. All right, thank you all. Are we good moving this forward?
Yes, I'm good moving it forward.
All right, we shall do that. Get this one wrapped up. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right.
So that concludes the policies that need to go forth to the board. The remainder of things don't require adoption. The next thing is an exhibit. If you scroll through.
I don't even know if I think.
There it is.
Oh, there they are. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
So you'll recall exhibits don't normally come forward to the board for approval. This doesn't require approval either. However, I bring it to you because it's section 2, right, which is the board's section specific in our policy manual. And this is an exhibit that's been around for a while. We have not previously formally adopted is not the right word because we don't adopt it, right? But if the board would like a procedure to be that which is their guide at a certain topic, we can sort of publish it in press underneath the corresponding policy so that the board and others can see the general procedure that we use underneath the policy when it comes to the board. So this is an exhibit that's had an update, so it came up in press again. And so I thought I'd bring it to you to see if it is something you would like to utilize as a board and therefore kind of publish on our press manual. This provides guidance on how and when and why you might apply for a waiver from various state mandates and state regulations. And so it breaks it down into different kinds. Unfunded mandates, provides explanations and links to where you might go to get additional information. Things such as, waivers for driver's ed or waivers for PE, waivers for holidays if we don't want to take a certain state holiday, parent-teacher conference waivers. So it just kind of goes through some of the frequently used waivers that a school district might apply for, provides some guidance around how and why a school district might do that. Many of them require a public hearing. So it very much involves board procedure. So just wanted you to look at that. You can decide, yeah, it's great. We can just keep it as an internal document, or you can say, yeah, let's have it for reference and let's publish it in press. It is up to you. Or you can say, no, thank you. We don't need this.
I'm slightly indifferent.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be an internal document, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of the benefit to make it an external document.
Just making public what your guiding procedure might be when approaching waivers or modifications to a state mandate.
Right.
How often do we actually do that?
Not often. We've done it for a couple different holidays in the past, like, Veterans Day, we're in school. We do Veterans Day things. So we've done it in the past around holidays, but we have not utilized it often in other instances.
And is it currently internal or external?
Neither. Like we've never really, from my understanding, it's never really been
adopted,
discussed, just, there is an option within press to mark a document like internal use only. It wasn't marked that either. So I just don't know that it was ever brought up or discussed or looked at as an option, at least as far as I know. So that's why I wanted to bring it forth to you, is it just came up in press with a couple new changes to it. So It can easily be a thank you, no thank you.
You know, a lot of these decisions of late, we've not everything fits neatly into, not everything that even the state had fit neatly into what they had originally. We've had to create, you know, we've had to work off of new crisis pieces. So within the construct. So these are obviously, that's obviously different, but Kathleen, I mean.
Yeah, it seems to me, Amy, that what I'm hearing, and correct me everybody, please,
right,
is that we have an internal process that we go through, that you go through when you've, you know, you've had these waivers, but we haven't had a policy or policy guidance for it that's public.
Right.
I think it's important that we have that. And I have, and while I think Erin's point that we haven't, you know, we've done this internally, but we haven't had a policy or a guideline for it. So I think if we've been doing it, it's important to have something that we can refer to. And I always like one of the things about our board is that we've always been as transparent as possible. So if it's no skin off our nose, it's good to have it out there. And you never know, there's a lot of things coming down the pike these days, but there may be an option for us to use this. I have been hearing a little bit from Ed Red about giving school districts options and working towards giving school districts options to waiver certain unfunded mandates. So I think this is something that there might be some soil for it going forward. That's my thoughts on it anyway. So you guys decide what you want to do, but I don't like the idea of having internal, you know, work that's going on internally, a practice without an organized policy of at least recommendations.
Oh yeah, no, I like to have, everyone always says, so what's the, you know, what's the policy?
Yeah, so
where's the policy? Where's the policy, or where's the procedure, right?
Yeah,
that's what we work off of.
That's it. So that's what I'm thinking here. I may be wrong, but I don't think it hurts. And yeah, that's it. That's fine.
And that it's your guideposts.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm yeah. So I'm all for just having it in place. It looks reasonable. The only thing is if something looks like it's not something we would do, but I don't know why anything here would be something we wouldn't do.
Yeah, it's pretty broad strokes.
Yeah.
So I didn't see anything terribly controversial. It's more about here's things you should think about in each of these instances.
Yeah.
Here's some basic ways to approach it. Here's some things to remember that you need to do. It's pretty broad strokes.
Okay.
And given that this funding from state mandates, there's only one real path or direction that you're legally allowed to pursue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So recommendation being yes, let's do it.
Okay.
And let's have it be an external document.
Yeah.
Is that the agreement, Erin?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's explaining state law pretty much and the procedure around it. I mean, there's not really anything that we can change about it.
Right.
So I'm fine with it being external.
Yeah. And what's nice about it is press, because it's a press procedure, they'll provide updates as needed and send it along for our review. So
sounds good. Okay. Is there anything else on this piece?
No.
Okay. All right. Or am I flying back?
Yeah, there you go. 410 is, so now we're moving into footnote changes only. They don't go forward to the board. The remaining 5 policies all in section 4. operational services. And these are all just footnotes. So the first 410, fiscal and business management, again, no policy language changes, no practice changes, simply a minor update in footnotes, very minor update in footnotes.
Right. I mean, they're date changes.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay. Are we okay with that, Erin?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Moving along with that. This one, 480.
Well, 455, I think, did we skip one?
Oh, probably. I'm trying. There we go.
Good. There you go. Again, this is just footnotes and a cross-reference change to include the new title of the fiduciary funds policy that we just reviewed.
We just did.
Yeah, so no changes in language or practice, just a cross-reference and a footnote.
Okay. And again, really doesn't need our approval, just it
Right.
is what it is. Okay,
Yeah.
good with that, Erin?
Yep, good.
Okay, all right. 480.
Operational services, the same, just some footnote updates.
Okay. All right, good with that, Erin?
Yep.
Okay, moving along. Operational services for 150.
Yep. And facility management building programs, again, no change in practice or language, just describing some updates for you in the footnotes.
Okay. All right, good with that, Erin?
Yep.
Okay. Operational services for 175.
Yep, this is the last one. The same. So just language and footnote, not even language, just footnote updates. No practice or language changes.
Okay. All right. Good with that one?
Yep.
Okay. It's always good to have these things come through, though. It puts our eyes back on them, if nothing else. I see them again and go, right. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We are done with that. Okay. Item 8. Do we have a need to go into closed session?
Nope, we do not.
We do not. Okay, excellent. All right, going on to personnel recommendations. Mrs. Carter.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Only a couple for you this evening.
Okay.
A resignation of an assistant track coach. And then an unfortunate one, right? We have a request for an unpaid leave of absence through the remainder of the year given COVID. This is David, one of our wonderful cafeteria monitors over at Grays Lake North. He simply has been in an ongoing discussion with his medical professionals, and they believe it best to just take a pause while we're in remote to, be well and stay safe. And we look forward to David joining us again in the new school year. So thank you in advance for your consideration of this leave request. He brought it forth with a heavy heart, but we are excited to say it's a temporary leave of absence for David. So, and we want all of our D127 family to be safe and join us again in the fall. So happy to answer any questions about either one of those, but pretty short and sweet this evening in terms of personnel recommendations.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm just sorry that, I'm just sorry to hear that. Any questions? Erin?
No, sorry to hear that too. Hopefully he'll be, things will be different. He'll be joining us in the fall.
Absolutely. Thank you for your support.
Anyone else? Kathleen?
Nope. Good.
Al?
Thank you.
Nope.
Douglas? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Topics for future committee or board meetings.
Got nothing.
Yeah, I have nothing. I mean, the obvious one is how hybrid's going, but I assume that we'll get that in spades.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, we'll keep getting, I mean, I'm glad we have this COVID update on as a standing order, and there's a reason, and that's a good one. So, yeah, and I think we're all really, really looking forward to hearing how all this goes next week. We're cheering for everyone, and also knowing, I think, with eyes wide open, what this all means. So.
Oh, you know what? I did have something, Amy. I'm
sure,
sorry.
Go ahead, Douglas.
Maybe it's not for personnel, but because the kids are going back and we're back in school. Is there going to be an opportunity for us to meet in person for the board meeting and the committee meetings?
My understanding so IASB just put out, there's been an extension of the order from the governor. And my understanding, I think it was just yesterday that IASB put out that there's still an extension on board meetings because of the restrictions, and that boards are encouraged to continue to be remote, at least through sometime in February. That's my understanding of that, but I could be wrong. I may have misread that. I admit I was reading it quickly. I was also looking at it for another board that I work with, but that's my understanding based on just current guidance to boards and our duty as being under.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But interesting that we're also still we're being encouraged to work in this manner. It does help so that people can watch from anywhere, or if there's needs and anybody can, so that business just keeps on going no matter what. So.
Yeah, I know. I thought that maybe there was some type of hybrid that we could start implementing too, if we wanted to come in or something.
Right. I think we were just following the government. Yeah,
fair enough. I'm totally cool with following the IASB. So I thought I saw something that here too.
It's not my call. It's not my call. It's the board's call. I'm just reiterating what we're currently under the governor's order, or allowed to be under the governor's order based on the Open Meetings Act of what we're allowed to do. And so we're still under that auspice of what we're allowed to, how we're allowed to operate, right? And so we are still allowed to operate using this method for the Open Meetings Act. And it's been extended again.
It's a great point. You know what? It would behoove us to look into the details and just get it on, get it out there so we can share what the thinking is right now with everyone, and just get it in writing and get it out there. And maybe we can do that by the next board meeting, so that we all have that shared understanding. Maybe Mikkel can look into that, or have some of the staff look into that for us. Could you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not. I was quickly looking through IASB to see that guidance. I haven't found it, but we'll look for it. Well,
not tonight, Mikkel, please.
No.
It might have been from somebody else. I'm sorry. I work with a lot of boards.
It's all
public
good.
boards.
And thinking about it right now, I wouldn't want to even try it, because it'd be a nightmare for the staff to try to be safe, and with everything else going on too. So.
Well, we currently do not have, so some boards, right, do have things set up for video. We have not had that. We've been doing Zoom, so these can be taped, right, or people can come in, and even if they're not able to watch or come in to observe or do public comment, they can come in and do it this way, right? So this to me is helpful. We haven't had, this is part of our conversation that I believe that we want to have. It was put on, I think, a board suggestion maybe it's our next board meeting, we were going to talk about this.
Yeah,
So I think I don't want to preempt it.
Yeah, why don't we? It's getting late. I don't know about you guys, but Mikkel, if you could look into this maybe for us and shoot something out to us so we know what the rules. I certainly wouldn't want to have a super spreader event among all of us board members.
No, of course not. No, I didn't mean to go down the rabbit hole with this one, guys.
Oh dear, or cause any anxiety for people at all. I feel like I'm out of the way and not hurting anybody in my little room. But anyway, and I'm sure board members also, we have to take into consideration, you know, I have an elder parent that I care for, so I'm sure others have people that they're caring for too, that they have to be, you know, have to be very super careful. So anyway, but Mikkel, if you can look into this and let us know what the rules are, we'll go from there.
Will do.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be cutting it off, but once we have the information, we can talk.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I believe we are finished for the evening. It is 9:06 p.m. We can adjourn. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much.